Good day to each and everyone. I am Cindy and Pamaong of BSHM 3A, and today I'm going to discuss about the special topics of Chapter 17. So for our learning objectives, we must discuss the various special laws affecting the tourism industry, identify situations and problems where these special laws may be applied as a solution, identify some tourist establishments that implement as well as not implement these special laws. So for our topic outlines, we have here the introduction, senior citizen law, the warranties in supply of services, cultural minorities, protected areas, wildlife, and heritage and culture presentations, the UAI, draft charter on the rights of minorities, National Caves and Cave Resources Management Protection Act, and Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act, National Integrated Protections Area System Act, Law on Intellectual Property Rights, Anti-Child Abuse Law, Anti-Prostitution Law, Anti-Pornography Law, Anti-Hijacking Law, Dangerous Drug Law, Anti-Smoking Law, Anti-Smuggling Law, Law on Violence Against Women and Children, and Laws on Human Trafficking, International Law on Terrorism, the Global Code of Ethics for Tourism, and Health Tourism, that we have also here the tourism research, and lastly the conclusions. So this chapter discusses special topics and special laws that will be useful in managing and operating a tourism related establishment. So we have here the Senior Citizen Law, Republic Act number 9257, also known as the Senior Citizen Law of 2004, was enacted to provide citizens the following: grant of 20% discount on all prices of goods and services offered to the general public regardless of the amount purchased from establishment, irrespective of classifications, relative to the utilizations of services for the exclusive use of a senior citizen in the following: hotels and similar lodging establishments, restaurants and recreational centers. We also have here a minimum of 20% discount on admissions of fees, charges charged by theaters, cinemas, houses and concert halls, circuses, carnivals, and other similar places of culture, leisure and amusement for the exclusive use or enjoyment of senior citizens. So we also have here at least 20% discount in fare for domestic air and sea travel based on the actual fare, including the promotional fare, advance booking, and similar discounted fare for the exclusive use and enjoyment of a senior citizen. We also have 20% discount in public railways, including LRT, MRT, PNR, Skyways, and fares in buses or the PUB, jeepneys, taxis, and shuttle services for exclusive use and enjoyment of senior citizens. You also have here the crimes against destruction such as arson, violations under Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste Control Act of 1990, Atomic Energy Regulatory and Liability Act of 1968, Anti-Hijacking Law and Anti-Piracy and Anti-Robbing Highway Law, illegal and unlawful possessions, manufacture, dealing in, acquisitions, or dispositions of firearms, ammunitions and explosives, recognitions of the ICC's, IP's rights within national unity and development, protections of ancestral domains and customary laws, respect for indigenous cultures and traditions and institutions, equal enjoyment of human rights regardless of sex or status, participations of ICCs or IPs in protection of their cultural integrity, and accessing equal opportunity supports for ICCs, IPs in shaping education, health, and other services to meet their needs. So we have here the law UAI draft charter on the rights of minorities. So the lawyers associations have a role play in promoting and defending the individual and collective rights of minorities and their members. Hence, the lawyers associations at an international meeting in Francisco have decided to adopt an international charter for the purpose of seeking to ensure that the principles set below are complied with. Article 1 number individual may no individual may be subject to disadvantage of any kind because he or she is a member of particular national, ethnic, linguistic, cultural, or religious minority, or because of his her sexual learnings. We have here Article 2. The lawyers' associations will take steps to encourage teaching relating to the rights of minorities in law schools and institutions for continuing education with which they are concerned, including teaching as to the nature of such rights and as to the ways in which lawyers may effectively defend them. In Article 3, an individual of trial who belongs to a minority group is entitled to be tried in accordance with principles guaranteed by international law. He or she is entitled to be tried before an independent and impartial court. So for the next slide is the law in RA number 9072, the National Caves and Cave Management Protection Act, April 8, 2001. The law implements the policy of the state to conserve, protect, and manage caves and cave resources as part of the country's natural wealth. Toward this end, the state shall the state shall strengthen cooperations and exchange of information between governmental authorities and people who utilize caves and cave resources for scientific, educational, recreational tourism, and other purposes. So for the next slide is the Law on Republic Act 9147, the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act on July 30, 2001. The law implements the policy of the state to conserve the country's wildlife resources and their habitats for sustainability. So the law shall have the following objectives. First is to conserve and protect wildlife species and their habitats to promote ecological balance and enhance biological diversity. Second, to regulate the collections and trade of wildlife. Next is to pursue, with due regard to the national interest, the Philippine commitment to international conventions, protections of wildlife and their habitats. We also have to initiate or support scientific studies in the conservation of biological diversity. So for the next slide is a Republic Act 7586, or the National Integrated Protected Area System Act on 1992, or in June 1, 1992. So this law is based on the policy of the state to secure for the Filipino people of present and future generations the perpetual existence of all native plants and animals through establishments of a comprehensive system of integrated protected areas within the classifications of national parks, as provided for in the constitutions. So the establishments of a national integrated protected areas system, or the NEPAS, shall encompass outstandingly remarkable areas and biologically important public lands that are habitats or of rare and endangered species of plants and animals, biogeographic zones and related ecosystems, whether terrestrial, wetland, or marine, all of which shall be designated as protected areas. So for the next slide, we have here the Law on Intellectual Property Rights, or the RA 8293 Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. So the law is enacted to streamline administrative procedures of registering patents, trademarks, and copyright, to liberalize the registrations and the transfer of technology, and to enhance the enforcement of intellectual property rights in the Philippines. You also have here the Anti-Child Abuse Law in or RA 7610, Special Protection of Children Against Child Abuse, Exploitations and Discrimination Act, as amended by the RA 9231 in 2003. So this law implements the policy of the state to provide special protection to children from all forms of abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitations, discriminations, and other conditions prejudicial to their development, including child labor and worse crimes, and provide sanctions for their commission. So for the next slide is the Anti-Prostitution Law, the law article in 202. For purposes of this article, women who, for money or profit, habitually indulge in sexual intercourse or lascivious conduct and are deemed prostitutes. We also have the anti-pornography law, the law on Article 201, or the immoral doctrines, obscene publications and exhibitions, and indecent shows. So the penalty shall be imposed upon those who publicly promote doctrines against public morals. We also have here the authors, editors, and sellers of the obscene literature, those who show indecent or immoral content in public places like theaters or fairs, including material that glorifies crimes or criminals, promote violence, lust, or pornography, offends any race or religion, encourages drug use, violation laws, morals, costumes, or public order. We also have those who distribute or display immoral films, prints, or literature. So for the next slide, we have here the anti-hijacking law. So the law under Republic Act number 6235 on June 1971, anti-hijacking is committed by any person who compels a change in the course of destinations of an aircraft or the Philippine registry, or seizes or usurps the control thereof while it is in the flight. An aircraft is in the flight from the moment that its external doors are closed following embarkations until any of such door is open for disembarkations. We also have here the Dangerous Drug Laws or the Public Act number 9165, also known as the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. So this law implements the policy of the state to safeguard the integrity of its territory and well-being of its citizenry, particularly the youth, from the harmful effect of the dangerous drugs on their physical and mental well-being, and defend the same against act on or omissions detrimental to the development and preservations. In view of the foregoing, the state needs to enhance further the efficacy of the law against dangerous drugs, it being one of today's more serious social ills. Toward this end, the government shall pursue an intensive and unrelenting campaign against the trafficking and use of dangerous drugs and other similar substances through an integrated system of planning, implementations, and enforcement of anti-drug abuse policies, programs, and projects. So the government shall, however, aim to achieve a balance in the national drug control program so that the people with legitimate medical needs are not prevented from being treated with adequate amount of appropriate medications, which include the use of dangerous drugs. So for the next slide is the Anti-Smoking Law, Republic Act 8749 or the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999. So this law implements the policy of the state to pursue a policy of balancing development and environmental protection. To achieve this end, the framework for sustainable development shall be pursued. It is in this regard that the policy of the state shall be based on the following objective. First, develop a national air pollution management program which clear government coordinations and delegations. Second is promote citizens and industry cooperation through market-based incentives and self-regulations. Third is prioritize pollution prevention with a comprehensive air quality management approach. Fourth is raise public awareness and support active community participations in air monitoring and planning. Fifth is enforce accountability for environmental impacts, including cleanup funding and compensation for damages. For the next slide is the anti-smuggling law, the law on section 3601 or the unlawful importations. So any person who shall fraudulently import or bring to the Philippines or assist in so doing any article contrary to law or shall receive, conceal, buy, sell, or any manner facilitate transportations, concealment, or sale of such article after importations, knowing the same to have been imported, contrary law shall be guilty of smuggling. When upon trial for violation of this section, the defendant is shown to have had possessions of the article in question, possession shall be deemed sufficient evidence to authorize convictions unless the defendant shall explain the possession to the satisfaction of the court, provided, however, the payment of the tax due after apprehension shall not constitute a valid defense in any prosecution under these sections. So for the next slide is the law on violence against women and children. Republic Act 9262, Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. So the law in Section 3, violence against women and children refers to any acts or a series of acts committed by any person against a woman who is his wife, former wife, or against a woman with whom the person has or had a sexual or dating relationship, or with whom he has a common child, whether legitimate or illegitimate, within or without the family abode, which result in his or likely to result is physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering, or economic abuse, including threats of such acts, battery, assault, coercion, harassment, or arbitrary deprivations and liberty. Dating relationship refers to a situation wherein the parties live as husband and wife without the benefits of marriage or are romantically involved over time and on a continuing basis during the course of the relationship. A casual acquaintance or ordinary socialization between two individuals in a business of or social context is not a dating relationship. So for the next slide is the Laws on Human Trafficking, Republic Act 9208, Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003 on May 26, 2003. So the law on Section 3, trafficking is persons refers to recruitment, transportation, transfers, or harboring, or receipt of persons with or without the victim's consent or knowledge, within or across national borders by means of threats or use of force or other forms of coercions, abductions, fraud, deceptions, abuse of power, or of position, taking advantage of the vulnerability of the persons, or the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another persons for the purpose of exploitations with which includes at a minimum the exploitations or the prostitutions of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery, servitude, or the removal of sales of organs, recruitments, transportations, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a child for a purpose of exploitation shall be also be considered as trafficking in persons. We also have here that sex tourism refers to programs organized by travel and tourism related establishments and individuals which consist of tourism packages or activities, utilizing and offering escorts and sexual services as enticement of for tourists. So this includes sexual services and practice offered during rest and recreation periods for members of the military. We have here also the International Law on Tourism. So the Law on World Tourism Organization or the UNWTO is a specialized agency of the United Nations and leading international organization in the field of tourism. It serves as a global forum or tourism policy issues in a practical source of tourism know-how. It plays a central and decisive role in promoting the development of responsible, sustainable, and universally accessible tourism, paying particular attention to the interests of developing countries. So the organization encourages the implementation of the Global Code of Ethics for Tourism with a view to ensure that the members of the countries, tourist destination, and business maximize the positive economic. So its membership includes 157 countries, including the Philippines, the territories, and more than 300 affiliate members representing the private sectors, educational institutions, tourism associations, and the UNWTO is committed to the United Nations Millennium Development Goals geared towards reducing poverty and fostering sustainability development. So we also have the Global Code of Ethics for Tourism sets a frame of reference for the responsible sustainable development of tourism, world tourism. So with international tourism forecast for nearly triple in volume for over next 20 years, members of the tourism organization believe that the Global Code of Ethics tourism is needed to help minimize the negative impacts of tourism on the environment and cultural heritage with while maximizing the benefits for residents of tourism destination. So for the next slide is the health tourism. So the law on health tourism is tourism associated with travel to health spas or resort destinations where the primary purpose is to improve the traveler's physical well-being through a regimen of physical exercise and therapy, dietary control, and medical services relevant to the health maintenance. So for the next slide is a tourism research. So tourism plays a vital role in regional development, generating around 2.3 million jobs and supporting related industries like transport, hospitality, and retail. The local government code of 1991 transferred tourism planning and promotions responsibilities to LGUs, supported by regional tourism councils or the RTCs composed of private and public sector members. The Department of Tourism, through its planning sectors, creates and updates the tourism master plan and works with the stakeholders to enhance tourism products and investment opportunities. So for the conclusion, special laws help protect people and nature in the tourism industry. They make sure everyone is treated fairly, including seniors, children, women, and indigenous groups. So these laws also protect the environment, culture, and public safety. Knowing these laws help tourism workers serve guests better and follow the rules. They guide businesses on how to act responsibly and legally. Following these laws builds trust with tourists. So, in the end, a safe and respectful tourism industry benefit everyone. I think that will be all for my part. Thank you and God bless us all.